the cafe where time stood still. In the heart of San Francisco, where cable cars rolled up steep hills and the Golden Gate Bridge gleamed in the morning mist, there stood a little cafe tucked between a flower shop and a music store. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't famous, and most tourists passed it by without noticing. The sign above the door read, Harper's Café. Inside, it smelled of roasted coffee beans and cinnamon rolls. The walls were painted a soft cream color, decorated with black and white photographs of San Francisco from the 1940s. A worn clock hung above the counter, its hands forever frozen at 3:15. No matter how many times the cafe owner had tried to fix it, the clock refused to move. Locals began calling the place the cafe where time stood still. And perhaps, in some ways, it really had. At 24, Emily Walker had grown tired of the noise of the city. She worked as a freelance photographer, always chasing deadlines and clients' expectations. But Harper's Cafe was her escape. Every morning, she sat at the corner table with her camera bag beside her, sipping hot coffee while the world outside rushed by. She loved the place not because it was glamorous, but because it was quiet, safe, the kind of space where you could breathe without being reminded of how fast life moved. On one particularly foggy morning, as Emily sat reviewing photos of the bay, the bell above the cafe door chimed. A man walked in. He looked a little out of place, tall, dressed in a crisp shirt and dark jacket, as if he had just stepped out of a boardroom rather than a neighborhood cafe. He glanced around, clearly unfamiliar with the setting, then finally approached the counter. "A black coffee," he ordered, his voice steady but tired. When he turned to find a seat, his eyes landed on Emily's corner. For reasons neither of them could explain, he walked over. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. Emily blinked in surprise. Most people left her alone, but something in his tone, polite, almost cautious, made her nod. "Sure." He sat down, and for a few moments, they said nothing. Then he extended a hand. "I'm Nathan Bennett." "Emily?" she replied. The silence returned, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Somehow, the cafe felt different with him sitting across from her, as if the frozen clock on the wall had shifted its weight ever so slightly. Nathan came back the next day, and the next. Emily soon learned that he worked in finance, his office just a few blocks away. But despite his professional success, there was a heaviness about him, something he carried but didn't speak of. One afternoon, she asked, "Why do you keep coming here?" He looked down at his coffee. "Because it's the only place that doesn't feel like it's racing against time. Everywhere else, I can't keep up." Emily smiled softly. "That's exactly why I love it too." From that day on, their quiet companionship grew. They didn't need to talk constantly. Sometimes they simply shared the silence, each lost in their own thoughts, while the cafe wrapped around them like a safe cocoon. One rainy evening, Emily lingered longer than usual. Nathan stayed too, both of them watching the raindrops streak across the cafe windows. She glanced up at the broken clock. "You ever wonder why they never fix it?" Nathan followed her gaze. "Maybe it's not broken. Maybe it's a reminder." "A reminder of what?" she asked. He hesitated before answering. "That time isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's okay to stand still." Emily tilted her head. "That's a strange way to look at it." "Maybe," Nathan said, "but maybe that's what we need. To stop measuring life by hours and deadlines. To just be." His words stayed with her long after that night. As the weeks passed, Emily and Nathan began sharing more about themselves. Emily confessed her fear of failure, that she loved photography but often felt she wasn't good enough to succeed. Nathan, after much hesitation, revealed something deeper. His younger brother had passed away 2 years earlier in a car accident. Nathan had been working late at the office that night. He blamed himself, convinced that if he had been around more, things might have been different. I buried myself in work, he admitted quietly, staring into his untouched coffee. Because if I kept moving, I didn't have to feel it. But the truth is, I lost more than just my brother. I lost myself too. Emily's chest tightened at his words. She reached across the table and touched his hand gently. You didn't lose yourself. You're still here. And maybe this place is reminding you of that. Nathan looked at her, and for the first time since they met, she saw a flicker of something hopeful in his eyes. Over time, Harper's Café became more than a meeting spot. It became a space where Emily and Nathan rebuilt parts of themselves they thought were gone. Emily began bringing her camera, showing Nathan her favorite photographs: sunsets over the bay, children playing in Golden Gate Park, the city lights.